Somebody said billionaires use sports teams to pay lower taxes. What is this? Oh god, it's ProPublica. Oh no. Okay. Oh, was it George Carlin bit?
Now, to balance the scale, I'd like to talk about some things that bring us together. Things that point out our similarities instead of our differences. Because that's all you ever hear about in this country is our differences. That's all the media and the politicians are ever talking about, the things that separate us, things that make us different from one another. That's the way the ruling class operates in any society. They try to divide the rest of the people. They keep the lower and the middle classes fighting with each other so that they, the rich, can run off with all the money. Fairly simple thing happens to work. You know, anything different, that's what they're going to talk about. Race, religion, ethnic and national background, jobs, income, education, social status, sexuality, anything they can do, keep us fighting with each other so that they can keep going to the bank.
Damn.
You know how I describe the economic and social classes in this country? The upper class keeps all of the money, pays none of the taxes. The middle class pays all of the taxes, does all of the work. The poor are there just to scare the shit out of the middle class.
Yeah, that's the joke I was thinking of, yeah. Okay.
This is billionaire Steve Ballmer. He owns the LA Clippers. He pays a way lower tax rate than millionaire LeBron James. He even pays a lower rate than Adelaide Hopkins.
Okay.
He pays a way lower tax rate than millionaire LeBron James.
LeBron James is probably just making a ton of, my guess is the majority of it is structured as basically ordinary income, right? This is just income. I don't know how else you could even structure this, but okay.
He even pays a lower rate than Adelaide Avila, a state.
$44,810 in income? My guess is her rate is, her effective tax rate is probably very low, but okay. They put his net worth as income? Wait, did they? This says 2018 income. Is Steve Ballmer worth $656 million? Steve Ballmer net worth is $112.1 billion. Pretty sure this was his income, not his net worth.
He pays a way lower tax, pays a lower rate than Adelaide Avila, a stadium worker.
Peanuts! Get your peanuts here!
Federal tax rate, 14.1% for her, 35.9% for him. Yeah, because most of his shit is going to be ordinary. 12% for him. I wonder how does he have a 12% effective tax rate? Oh boy, I'm about to hear some retard math. It's either going to be through appreciation of capital that he's not selling. So they're going to say, wow, look, he made up $500 million because something appreciated in value, but he didn't sell it. That's my guess. It's probably where we're going. Let's see.
He's basically dunking on the tax system.
Okay, how does he do it? Show
Welcome
us.
to Planet Tax Avoidance. This is a magical place where sports team owners can tell the government they make tens or even hundreds of millions less than they actually do, and pay very little in taxes.
Wow.
And it's all perfectly legal. How?
Yeah, how?
Amortization.
Okay.
Pro sports teams are like unicorns in the business world. They pretty much always increase in value. But our tax laws allow the owners to claim that their team's assets lose value, like a machine that wears out over time. So, after buying a team, the owner's allowed to write off almost the whole price from their future income. In just 5 years, the Clippers reported $700 million in losses, reducing Ballmer's tax bill. In 2017, Ballmer's in loss in just allowed to write off almost the whole price from their future income. In just allowed to write over time. So, after buying a team, the owner's allowed to write off almost the whole price from their future income.
If you acquire another business, is it a write-off if you buy a business? I'm not sure what the thing they're referring to here is, but maybe, okay.
In just 5 years, the Clippers reported $700 million in losses, reducing Ballmer's tax bill.
700 million in losses, okay. How would it reduce his personal tax bill? How is this flowing through to his 1040? Or why?
In 2017, Ballmer reported a $140 million loss to the IRS.
Him personally, or a business of his?
Leaked NBA financials around then showed the team $2.1 million in the black. And Ballmer's not alone. Many sports team owners take advantage of this tax break.
Wait, what is the...
And showed the team $2.1 million in the black.
Yeah, but the team is a different business than his personal taxes.
And Ballmer's not alone. Many sports team owners take advantage of this tax break. If an owner dies still owning the team, the taxes they'd avoided will probably never be paid back.
Who avoided the taxes, though? He doesn't have that money. That's money that the team has, not money that he has.
In the event the owner sells the team during their lifetime, they do owe the taxes they'd avoided, but they still got a free...
Oh, so they didn't avoid the taxes. It's an appreciation thing. This is what I said initially. It's appreciation. So it's a capital asset or a business is appreciating in value. None of the money has flowed through to their 1040, or they haven't realized again by selling any portion of it, but okay.
Because for years, they could take the money they would have paid in taxes and invest it for personal profit. They owe the taxes they'd avoided, but they still got a freebie. Because for years, they could take the money they would have paid in taxes and invest it for personal profit. That's like an interest-free loan from you, the federal taxpayer. We estimate Ballmer has saved about $140 million in taxes from his ownership of the team. The tax write-offs of pro sports teams cost the government...
This is a slop video. I don't know what the fuck the point is of this. Okay. ProPublica is not the best on like tax-related stuff. Most of the stuff I've seen from them is pretty slop.
In February 2020...
How a Minecraft short seller broke Democracy Craft's largest bank. I'm good on that. Oh, this article. In the House, something House, Besant confronted Musk and, a source said, the F-bomb started to fly. Besant criticized Musk for overpromising and under-delivering budget cuts with Doge. Musk clapped back by calling Besant a Soros agent and accusing him of having run a failed hedge fund. Trump has praised Besant's financial acumen. The argument was so heated that an aide stepped in between the two men to separate them. It took place within earshot of Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, who was visiting Trump that day. Two sources who overheard the argument recalled that at one point Besant yelled, "Fuck you," and Musk replied, "Say it louder." That night, Trump loyalist Laura Loomer got in on the action and began torching Besant on X for allowing an unrelated Trump hater into Treasury for a financial literacy event. Wow. Giorgia? Is it Giorgia? Who's going to link Persec owning XQC last night? What happened? During the course of this campaign, I reached out to the teams of the three big party leaders, offering to have them come on my YouTube channel, the most popular independent Canadian commentary channel on YouTube, for a long-form interview at my studio here in Vancouver. All ultimately chose to either ignore me or ghost me after some initial talk. I'm particularly disappointed in Pierre, who I've already interviewed once before and who chose to go on a much smaller, much more partisan channel instead. I don't want to be too self-important about this, but I don't think it reflects well on our political leaders when everyone is so damn risk-averse, so terrified of having conversations with people who might disagree with them on some things or ask questions that might put them slightly outside of their comfort zone, even just for a moment. Well, that's sad. Timestamp at 5:15:03. What is this?
No, it didn't.
Didn't we watch this?
But then I go back to like what I learned about the Woodward, Bernstein.
I'm good on this. Don't know about this. Quick meme.
About that every day. The only thing I'll say is the US healthcare system is the most corrupt industry in the world. That it is what it is. So we can't do anything about that short term. That is something the Americans have to do long term. if they don't want to be scammed by it anymore. It is what it is.
Wait, what?
About that every day. The only thing I'll say is the US healthcare system is the most corrupt industry in the world. That it is what it is. So we can't do anything about that short term. That is something that Americans have to do long term if they don't want to be scammed by it anymore. It is what it is. No, you don't need any bullshit Obamacare. Stop having those retarded solutions. It's way more corrupt than Norwegian. Like, that is so dumb. You need to rip the whole industry up by the roots and set some regulations for them. That's it. Obamacare, do dog shit. Temporary solutions. Get the fuck out of here with your dumb shit.
Sounds like a European hater to me, guys. The slop guy. Let's see. I've always admired many things about Jordan Peterson, particularly Maps of Meaning and his initial rise to fame, taking on the woke insanity. I was pleasantly surprised that he complimented the three of us from the debate on Joe Rogan Experience. That's about as good as I could expect from a Daily Wire employee. Ooh. I was a bit surprised at his take on keeping the psychopaths away. Now, I'm just a non-expert comic who's never been, oh, get it? Yeah. But it seems sloppy for a clinical psychologist to just throw around a mass diagnosis like this. He mentioned the Groypers as falling into this category. I certainly have my issues with them, and I can count on their leader to trash me anytime I'm making waves, but this just seemed incredibly unfair. The Groypers are guilty of being immature and saying mean things about Jews on Twitter, and while I don't like that, I wouldn't think it rises to the level of such a claim. If we were truly interested in calling out psychopathy, why not start with the people dropping bombs on babies and advocating more? How about the people signing bombs that are on their way to do just that? How about the people who have advocated for the last 5 catastrophic wars and desperate, and despite being wrong about all of them, are advocating for the next? Why not have one standard of blood across the board? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Frogan, and this is the first time I'm ever making a solo YouTube video about everything that has happened the last year and a half.
Wow.
I address everything on my podcast, Arabs,
Her
which
podcast.
you can find the link below, but today it's just going to be you and I. I think the content cop was great. You know, I feel like Ian approached it in a way that nobody else does. He approached it with empathy, and, you know, it was supposed to make people feel bad for Ethan. One of the main things, especially
Gaslight. It was supposed to make people feel bad for Ethan? She's such a lying cunt. Holy shit.
especially as content creators, people tend to dehumanize us and forget that we're living normal people just like you. So obviously, with so much pressure on the internet, both on myself, and I'm sure Ethan can relate to this too, it's fucking hell. It's hard to manage, it's hard to deal with. So I feel like Ian approached it in a way that was more so holding a friend accountable and in a softer way, and wanted to generate empathy for Ethan. Other people don't do that. And I've even said this before, I feel like we need to stick to the basics as to why Ethan Klein deserves to be criticized, and that is for being pro-Israel and trying to deplatform pro-Palestinian content creators.
Okay.
I think it's insane to involve his children and anybody else that really doesn't deserve the criticism. I think Hila deserves the criticism as well too, because she says some batshit crazy things on the podcast as well. And I've said this and I'll say it again. If you're spewing pro-Israel propaganda, I'm going to call you out about it. I received a text asking to say something nice about Ethan, and to be honest, I thought about it long and hard because I was like, this man does not deserve anything nice from me.
Ooh.
But I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. Maybe it'll give me some closure. So I wrote a letter to Ethan and I read it off, and iDubbbz put it in the video, and this was Ethan's reaction to the video.
I bet you would.
I will be reading my letter off because I don't want to sound robotic. H3 used to be the sports for good that I used to watch. I hope that one day gets back to what I remember. You were one of the
You know what? I will say this. Frogan is a terrorist supporter. Her politics are fucking disgusting. And the id poll that she tries to play is also really gross too. Like this fake Arab, whatever cosplay bullshit she does, I think is also super cringe. I don't know if I've ever heard her make the crazy unhinged personal attacks on Ethan and Hila. I'm not sure if I've ever heard that before. She might, but I feel like Denims is way more prone to that, just from what I've seen. But I've only seen a lot of Wicked's clothing stream, so maybe it's stuff I haven't seen personally.
used to be the sports for good that I used to watch. I hope that one day gets back to what I remember. You were one of the inspirations for me to start creating content, so all this has stunk. I hope you really hear this, and I wish you the best.
I think. Listen, Frogan, she's so dumb that you almost can't be even mad at her.
She did wish us the best in the end. It almost felt like the nicest one of them all.
I think she was the only one being genuine,
Yeah.
actually. So I don't want to. Whatever. Just Frogan. Just
wait. That's not even. That's okay. Yeah. Okay. No.
Chill, okay? Just stop being an idiot, and I'll stop talking about you. It's really simple math.
She's also by far the smallest creator of the bunch.
Right. I mean, is it even like cool that he included her? Like, she's just gonna get more shit for being involved.
It's not cool.
And like,
on his
it's
behalf.
not. It's
he
totally,
knows what like this entails.
This part made me laugh because it was very tone deaf, and he's acting like half of his content nuke wasn't about me.
Half of Ethan Klein's Hassan content nuke was about her? What?
Of the content nuke, the entire ending half was about me.
Was it?
So if I'm so irrelevant and so uncool to include, why the fuck was I in your goddamn video?
like Hassan can handle it, but like Frogan's now just gonna get a pile of shit on top of her that I have no control over because people are watching. Millions of people are watching his video, by the way, and they're reacting to it, and they're not having good reactions.
Not
to it.
just our audience.
Far from our own. Yeah.
I think it's funny that you think me being in the iDubbbz video is what's going to cause this harassment. When in reality, it's you, Ethan. You're acting like you haven't spent the last year and a half doing everything in your power to push people to bully and harass me, including weaponizing propaganda organizations such as the ADL to get me banned off Twitch because I made a joke about you not being able to say Habibi. But no, it's iDubbbz, one of the only major creators besides Hassan who has actually defended me publicly in the last few months. This next section is about the double standards of Ethan's thinking. Let's get started with this clip.
Personally, though, and I've seen Hassan do this before, is he's accused me of it. He goes, "Oh, you just hate Muslims." It's like, bro, can you actually just can you actually
engage
please
one
just
time.
respond to a real argument?
One
like,
time,
please,
just
bro.
one time.
You know, he just like, you can't just sweep everything away by saying that. It's just not right. Are people very cruel to her? Yeah, for sure. You know, it's just, I don't know, man.
I don't know how to explain this to you, Ethan, because this is something you claim all the time, but some people are actually racist. Ethan claims people are mean to him all the time because they're racist, using his religion as a shield of criticism, as he claims people are doing to me. A lot of the comments I get are about me being a hijabi and me being Muslim, so no. People are not more charitable to me because I wear hijab, and I wish that was the case.
Did her house? Hello? This is the moment in the house was like, what? I can't hear you. Oh God, a new symptom. He's deaf. Did the volume just get quieter for no reason?
This is something you claim all.
You know, it's just, I don't know, very just
Who has actually defended me publicly in the last few months. This next section is about the double standards of Ethan's thinking. Ethan, because this is something you claim all the time, but some people are actually racist. Ethan claims people are mean to him all the time because they're racist, using his religion as a shield of criticism, as he claims people are doing to me. A lot of the comments I get are about me being a hijabi and me being Muslim, so no. People are not more charitable to me because I wear hijab, and I wish that was the case.
I have never, they accuse me of doing it. They go, oh, Ethan's just targeting Arab and Muslim creators. It's like, I have never one time mentioned her hijabi or brought anyone's fucking identity into my criticism of them.
You haven't said anything about me being Muslim directly, but your ideas about Muslims are pretty obvious from what you say. Here are a few of many examples.
Why don't you just make it easier? Why don't you just fly to ISIS and do them a favor and just let them, just serve yourself on a platter for them because you deserve it.
What is the context of this clip? Hello? Maybe they're talking about terrorist attacks or ISIS or something. Oh, wait, what is the context? Oh, this is October 9th, 2023. Jesus. What do we...
Fly to ISIS and do them a favor and just let them, just serve yourself on a platter for them because you deserve it.
What is this? Hold
on a platter for them because you deserve it.
Enjoy your drugs and being a sex worker. Hamas would kill you on the spot. October 11th. Ethan, I'm not a Zionist. Klein playing fucking Twitcher terrorist live to thousands of people. Islamophobia on full display. Bro, first of all, if X or terrorist is invoking Islam to you, that's on you, chief, okay? Because these are actual statements by actual terrorists, all right? It's not ordinary Arab or terrorist. It's not Muslim or terrorist. It's Twitch or terrorist. So the joke here being that Twitch streamers like Hamas are literally making terrorist fucking comments that are indistinguishable from actual fucking terrorists. That's the joke. I'm in South Beach having fun on drugs. I think this guy was fighting with Ethan or something, and it has to do with the fact that Hamas would kill people for being gay, which they would. Like, I'm sorry, is literally every single criticism of Hamas or of any of these people, all of it just counts as Islamophobia? Come on, give me a break. This is cringe.
Like, I think per capita, a lot of the weird fucking terrorism and crimes and shit, I mean, there's definitely some strong thread of violence through the Muslim community, or Arab Muslims to be more specific.
Factually, that's true. There are reasons why you can talk about that, but I don't think this comment on its own counts as Islamophobia. Like, what, you literally can't talk about any of this?
The next thing I want to bring up are the double standards both Ethan and Gila have for themselves. Let's get started with this.
Yeah.
We misspoke. It didn't sound good. We immediately corrected ourselves. That's how mature people do. That's how you're supposed to handle yourself, isn't it? Like, what more do you want me to do?
I have no problem apologizing and admitting and whatever is needed when things happen.
This was in response to people bringing up how Gila said Yoav Gallant was a great guy, even though he's literally a war criminal and pro.
Can nobody bring up why she said this? Is this literally impossible? Like, nobody can engage with the fact of the matter on anything. You just can't engage with any of the facts. It always has to be the most unhinged and deranged attacks. Always. Okay.
Genocide. I'm a live streamer as well. I know being live for hours and hours on end, you can misspeak, and that is exactly what happened whenever I said the thing about the U.S. military. I said it in a way in which I didn't mean, and I also clarified it on Twitter.
Bitch, you tripled down on it. Are you serious? Just stand on it. Fuck the troops. If you hate soldiers, then fucking say it. Oh, she can't maybe because she's on Twitch because of the policy. Bro, you literally fucking didn't she literally triple down? Wasn't there initial backlash and then she doubled down on it and then that one, and then didn't she triple down on it and then get banned? What? Bro, find me the initial and find me the double down. Find it, please. Oh my God.
The thing about the U.S. military. I said it in a way in which I didn't mean, and I also clarified it on Twitter by saying the U.S. military has conducted some of the most horrific crimes against humanity in the modern era in countries such as Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Lebanon, and Palestine. My anger is directed at individuals who are currently championing these war crimes as if they liberated my people. It's horrific and disgusting. The beginning of the clip was worded poorly, and I do apologize for that. I go on to clarify in the clip that I do not mean all military, but specifically those with no remorse. What I said was out of frustration as they are currently bombing my family in the name of liberation. I realize that wishing people harm isn't the best way to talk about these issues and that I could have talked about these topics in a more sensitive way.
Think about this. Middle class, rich family, white girl, okay, is so bothered by what's going on with groups of people that she doesn't even fucking know about, okay? Which is hilarious. A year into the conflict, she doesn't know what the fuck a Druze is. It's hilarious, okay? And this poor little white girl, this poor little hijab-wearing white girl is so bothered by this that she will triple down on labeling all U.S. soldiers with PTSD as a good thing. But comments that Ethan and Ela make on October 10th are going to be used to, and comments taken in like 3-second clips are going to be used to paint them as Islamophobic? Hello? What?
And like I said initially, I'm not granted that charitability at all.
Also,
in a more sensitive.
Bombing my family Okay, hold on, because I don't follow. Hold on, I don't follow all the politics shit. October 20th, 2024. Before 2025. U.S. Would it be Air Force, Army? U.S. bombings, Michigan. Okay, in 1927, in the small township of Bath, Michigan, trusted community member Andrew Villa planted more than 600 pounds of dynamite. Okay. Did I miss this? Were there bombs going off in Michigan? In the U.S.? Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, before 2025. Did this happen? Did I miss something? Or... Huh. I wonder what family she's talking about. Because she was born and raised in the United States, so... Huh. Weird.
I have no pity at all for any fucking soldiers.
Oh, for any soldiers.
Distress, thank you so much. I will never have any fucking pity for any fucking soldiers.
Never any pity for
US
any soldier.
military?
Okay.
Who fucking who? I hope you get PTSD.
Okay. But she meant like the apparatus. Like when the dragon burned the chair, it was a symbol of fighting the power in Game of Thrones. She meant she hopes that the military industrial complex gets collectively PTSD'd in like an economic sense, I think.
You know?
Mm-hmm. We know, girl. Tell us more.
I do the ones I'm like whatever about the U.S. soldiers are the ones that like acknowledge that like what they did was wrong. They didn't know back then.
Oh, see, okay, she is
Whatever.
out there.
You're
Okay.
you're a good person in my book.
Aw.
I'm like a Tom. Thank you so much for the 10 gifted. The U.S. military that are like, yeah, like, you know, I did this back then, but now I know it's wrong. Like, I'm changed. Like, fuck imperialism. Fuck this. You don't deserve the PTSD. But like any other motherfucker, you're joining them. You're like, oh my god, I want my fucking Camaro, no student loans. Fuck you.
Oh.
I hope you get PTSD.
Okay.
And I hope you get no health insurance when you get back into fucking America.
Okay. Based. Listen, you can have you can be based if you want to. Queen. Be based. Okay. I think it's kind of gross because I disagree with your political opinion. But listen, you know, be based. We all know what you're saying. We all know what you meant here. Okay. There's no confusion. Just own it.
Bit of a way. And like I said initially, I'm not granted that charitability at all.
I want to explain it because people bring it up non-stop. I apologize for it right away when Ethan made a video to address this on his Ethan Klein channel. I
Next day, I think
made
it
a quick appearance in that video just to say I'm sorry, I misspoke. I shouldn't have called him a really good guy. Like, I don't know why I said it like that.
What more do you want from me? I did the same exact thing.
But it was this is such a bro. Streamers are horrible human beings. They're just bad people. Don't ever forget, okay? The issue with these people is they're bad human beings. It's not just bad politics. They're dog shit humans. They're dog shit humans, okay? It was obvious well, maybe it wouldn't have been obvious, I guess, to people that are completely unfamiliar with like the conflict or what's going on. It was obvious why Ela said what she said. Because when Gallant was tossed, it was because of a conflict with Netanyahu over how they wanted to conduct the war. So if you're listening and you're following the news, you understand why she said what she said, I think. And then she clarified the next day, and it's believable. Like, oh, yeah, that makes sense why she would have thought that or why she would have said that. Your position, we listened to the first one, okay? Then she got called out. This was the double down.
Camaro, no student. Any other motherfucker, you're doing. Oh my god, I want my fucking Camaro, no student loans. Fuck you. I hope you get PTSD. And I hope you get no health insurance when you get back into fucking America. And they posted it in my head. I'm like, base? Base?
Okay, so this is listening a second.
Am I supposed to be like I'm not walking back on it. I still fucking agree with it. Base?
Oh, okay. We're not walking back on it. We still fucking agree with it. Oh, based? Okay. Then where are we getting this idea that you genuinely apologized? Now,
Hi.
Now, after she got banned, then she was genuinely apologetic. But
Afghanistan, Syria, saying the U.S. military has conducted some of the most horrific crimes against humanity in the modern era in countries such as Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Lebanon, and Palestine. My anger is directed at individuals who are currently championing these war crimes as if they liberated my people. I go on to clarify in the clip that I do not mean all military, but specifically those with no remorse. What I said was out of frustration as they are currently bombing my family in the name of liberation. I realize that wishing people harm isn't the best way to talk about these issues and that I could have talked about these topics in a more sensitive way.
how can people follow someone like this so blindly? I know your community argues with you when we disagree, but I never see pushback in these streamer communities because these guys are not political communities. I wish I could stress that more. I wasn't joking when I said that Hassan does drama slop. People that do quote unquote politics online, what they're really doing is just drama, but politics is the vehicle by which they communicate the drama. That's what is happening. That's why it all looks like this.
And like I said initially, I'm not granted that charitability at all.
I want to explain it because people bring it up nonstop. I apologize for it right away when Ethan made a video to address this on his Ethan Klein channel.
Next day, I think
made a quick appearance in that video just to say I'm sorry, I misspoke. I shouldn't have called him a really good guy. Like, I don't know why I said it like that.
What more do you want from me? I did the same exact thing. Now we're moving on to the infamous button. So during the react to the content cop, AB started talking and the button was pushed. Here's the clip.
Authorities block healthcare to Gaza.
button.
Again, I'm not. Do you think that
Not
I'm
the
talking about
button.
walking around Gaza? When I say how great multicultural it is,
We
did
never
you think
defended
that?
how Israel attacked Gaza since October 7th, not even once. We never
I think that's the-
co-signed what they did.
Is that not the point he's making though?
What?
That you're talking about how nice Israel is, but
Israel proper is different
There
from
are-
Gaza.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Millions
right now, say
Muslims in
I
Israel.
guess that's where the
They clarified why the button was pressed, and,
And
it
that's
wasn't
the end
because
of the
of
clip,
AB.
because the button was pushed.
Oh.
Anytime any member of the crew gives Ethan any type of pushback, the button is pushed. And he wants...
Well, except we literally saw that with the apologizing to the women, where he was like, oh, okay, maybe I shouldn't call people bitches. I don't know what it is right now, but I feel like bitch is like a worse slur word for women than cunt. I don't know when that changed. Maybe it's because nobody uses cunt anymore, or maybe my vibe or intuition is off on that. But like, I feel like, oh God, she's such a fucking cunt. It feels more casual than like when I hear somebody be like, that bitch. Bitch feels like the more visceral word right now in my mind, but I don't know.
to say that I'm surrounded by yes men and people can never criticize me when he doesn't allow his staff that are part of the show to give him any critique or pushback whatsoever. During the live show today, some of the
You dumb bitch. Link me the clip. Link me that clip. I need it.
defended me, and I appreciate it so much. And during this episode, AB mentioned that the most recent time we talked, him and I had a disagreement.
People are saying stop being friends with her. You guys don't know fucking shit. I have not talked to her in forever, and the last time we did talk, we had a disagreement. Like where is this coming from? Like I don't understand. That is.
This disagreement was a DM I sent him, which stated, "Hey AB."
No, stop. I don't, stop, okay? A lie implies intent, okay? If I tell you I'm gonna be home by 5, yes, it does, you dumb bitch! This one sucks. You ruined this meme so much by whatever dog shit anime song that you just put in that one. Okay.
B, I wanted to reach out privately because responding publicly and adding to the dog pile doesn't feel right. I understand that people often overlook how tough the job market is, and I get that working for Ethan puts you in a complicated position. That said, I think what pushed people over the edge was a clip of you baiting pro-Palestinian people and blocking them. The criticism you're receiving is largely because people believe you're better than that and don't subscribe to Ethan's views. I know you've been vocal about Palestine, but I think it's important to explicitly clarify that you don't share his beliefs and that you stand on your own. Ethan is not worth the bullshit you have to deal with working for him. Honestly, there have been times where I felt anger towards you, but after some reflection, I wanted to approach you directly. I'm saying this as someone who was personally impacted by Ethan and as a cousin. I hope you understand where I'm coming from.
You know what? I hate this fucking chick so much. I hate her. I hate her politics so much. And I think she's a gross person. I have a lot of respect for people that send DMs like that. People always blow Mizkif up when he like DMs somebody. He's like, oh my God, he DMs this person. I think that when you're DMing people like this and you're saying like, hey, here's an issue I have with you. This is it's just like an explanation of the problem or whatever, and this is how I feel, and this is how we can reconcile it or not. I have a lot of respect for people that are willing to do stuff like that. So you know what? And that was like a decently phrased or whatever DM. It didn't look like a malicious piece of shit asshole DM. So nice.
AB didn't respond, and that's perfectly fine. I didn't expect him to. You know, I just.
What about this one?
Your problem, Lab, is you are assuming that Cherry is like just fucking lying. Okay. Now it could be.
She did just lie.
Saying something that is not true is not the same as.
Why should that hold when you post the DMs publicly later to attack them? Well, I don't know if she's attacking AB now, but it sounds like people do this. God, I don't know. I hate it. 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 The internet will change eventually. Please, Kappa. People are always like, oh, you said this was bad, but now you're doing it. Now you're doing it, so it's the same. It's not. Doing something in response to a thing is way different than doing something unprovoked. So if AB publicly mentioned the fact that they had DM'd each other, I think it's okay for her to post those DMs for clarity. It's not like she's just posting them to blow them up or to out them or whatever. She's posting for clarity because now there's an implication that, or she might feel like people have an implication that that conversation went differently than it actually did. I think that's totally fine.
Just wanted to get my feelings out. Although AB and I haven't talked in a long time, he's still somebody I care about. You know what I mean? He's like a cousin. You know, we have that bond. We're both from Dearborn, so it's like we're literally cousins.
I thought she was from Lebanon.
Not literally, but I don't know AB's motivations or what he feels because I'm on the outside at this.
I didn't fucking lie. Yes.
Shut
Please stop, Lab. Shut the fuck up.
How does somebody have the best meme clip of this? All of these suck.
Point. So I am just giving my perspective from somebody on the outside. I will say the invalid points of criticism towards AB is trying to question him as an Arab, which is completely fucked up and wrong. Nobody should do that, you know? It is valid to criticize him for still working for Ethan and being silent for as long as he was. Those are valid points of criticism. But don't try to take away his Arabness because you don't agree with him. Whenever AB started streaming on Twitch, I was the first person to raid him, and I even helped him whenever he asked me for advice on what to stream. AB has also helped me in many ways as well. Even a long time ago, AB included me in an H3 episode talking about why people should visit Dearborn. Here's a screenshot. It's from like 2023, I believe. He was also super, super supportive whenever I was nominated and won the Streamer Award.
All right, and the award goes to... Chala. Frogan.
Wait.
A lie implies intent.
It was this one.
Okay.
Good
If
job.
I tell you I'm gonna be home by 5, yes, it does, you dumb bitch. Okay. If I tell you I'm gonna be home by 5 p.m. today and I run late from work and I get home at like 5:20, I didn't fucking lie to you. You ended up not being true.
Thank you. Jesus.
You did it! You did it, sister!
And to be quite honest, like watching this clip back made me really, really sad because of basically the outcome of what.
Zerka absolutely peaked as a guest on Destiny. Yes, because my predictions about him, unfortunately, and I don't say this in like a, oh, I told you so kind of way, because I do think it's tragic, were 100% correct. Not my predictions, but I understand. I have the brain. I'm not just a person who's good at content. I also understand why I'm good at content. I understand why other people are good at content. I think I generally have a decent understanding of it. And Zerka needed two things. One, some people can't handle this ego-wise. I don't know if Zerka can. Some people make really good main characters. Some people are really good side characters. Zerka is a perfect side character. He is an unbelievable content accelerator and just an amazing person to vibe off of when he has another person to play. Or he doesn't have to be a side character. It can be like a co-cast thing, but he needs somebody else. He can't do it alone. He's not as entertaining on his own. He needs a second person with him. Number one. And number two, he needs a babysitter. Zerka cannot manage his own time, and he cannot manage himself around the temptations of women or drugs or whatever the fuck else that he was kind of like fucking his life up on. And he crashed out, I think, hard as a result of those two things. Mainly the latter rather than the former.
Be really, really sad because of basically the outcome of what this has become. You know what I mean? And I have nothing but love for AB and Lena, and I wish them the best. And
fuck did I come
maybe
back to?
in the
Oh, for
future we can be friends again, to be honest.
Before she moved out here, I remember us talking, and she was nervous about it. And I said, at the end of the day, you'll have me and Lena, like worst comes to worst. And then shit just hit the fucking fan.
Yeah.
Before.
And to those who are constantly defending me and having my back, I appreciate you and thank you so, so much. You know, during a time like this, it feels like the damage has been done physically, mentally, emotionally, and financially. But, you know, after a year and a half of harassment, it feels very calming that people are actually finally on my side. It's been a nightmare for me. On a more positive note, here are some of my favorite pictures taken at the shoot of the content cop bit. Of course, I got to see Kaya. I love her to death. And here are a couple pictures. To Ethan, if you're watching this for some reason, my message to you is that, you know, you and I have different worldviews, and you and I have different ideas for what is the best way to help people. And, you know, while I appreciate the spirit of your advocacy, I think it's misguided. You know, after all of this, you've made my life hell. I will say that. You've made my life fucking hell. But at the end of the day, what I said at the end of the content cop still stands. I wish you the best.
Okay. You know, that could have been a lot worse. She tried. She tried at least, and I'll give her that. I will give her credit for that. I will give her credit for that. I'll never get credit from these people for anything, but I'll give her credit for that. She tried. This is better than it could have been. Can I get some goddamn tungsten plates? Yes. Where the fuck are these? Where are these going to? Oh, it just stops here. Okay. This summit clip.
Geyser exhausted.
Ready for dust off.
Geyser exhausted.
Okay. New almost Friday TV. Guys, you blink me these so early. We're cannibalizing their views.
Need some help, kiddo?
Dad? No.
You don't have to be embarrassed, Tanner. You want your old man's help, I get it.
No, it's fine. It's just...
Sit down, champ. Come on. You don't have to be nervous, son. Okay? You're in good hands. Your old man's a pro.
Dad, you really don't have to do this.
Sit up. Back straight. There it is. Let's get this over with. Move. Move. Come here. See your mom down there with the neighbor?
Yeah, what's she doing with Mr. Adams?
Step one in how to kiss. Make sure the timing is just right. I never waited for the right moment. I used to rush into everything. I like the uncertainty. It turned me on. And it was no different with your mother. Step two, ease into it. We moved in together the day after we met. And 9 months later, you popped out. Happiest day of my life.
So, when do I use, like, tongue?
Step three, pay attention to their responses and adjust accordingly. I never listened to what your mother wanted. After we got married, she begged me to quit my job at the circus and get a real career.
Circus?
So, to make her happy, I got a job as a bank teller. But I would moonlight as a ringmaster after hours. I used to come home covered in line scrapes and tell her it was just another bank robbery gone wrong.
What?
I convinced your mother that bank robberies were pretty much a daily occurrence at all banks and that bank tellers were really more like security guards than anything else, and she bought it.
What does this have to do with kissing?
Step four, Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Of course, she was furious when she found out about the moon landing. So I had to quit the circus for good. But without the circus, well, your old man didn't have a purpose. And our sex life began to suffer for it.
Dad.
You see, son, your mom has certain needs. And, well, your old man had lost his mojo. I couldn't fulfill them. So we struck up a deal with the neighbors. She could hook up with Mr. Adams whenever she wanted to, and in return, I could hook up with Mrs. Adams.
Dad, your nose is bleeding.
Step 5. Know when to pull.
Dad, what are you doing?
Shut up. Are they still looking?
No.
Cool. Step 5. Know when to pull away. I should have put a stop to it as soon as it started. Mrs. Adams wasn't attracted to me. She detested me. We literally had to pretend to have sex while your mom and Mr. Adams were actually going to town on each other. Jesus. And when I finally built up the courage to tell your mom I wasn't comfortable with the arrangement, it was too late.
Oh no.
She was in love with Mr. Adams. And he with her. But what was I gonna do, right? I can't go back to the circus. They don't hire ringmasters my age anymore. And then there was you. How could I look my own son in the eyes and tell him his old man couldn't be a ringmaster?
Tom, Tanner, dinner's ready.
All right. Hello. Didn't expect to see you here, Mrs. Adams. May I? Oh, you're a biter. Oh, ooh, you got some curves.
Tom, get in here.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching this week's video brought to you by BetMGM. If you place attention.
Okay. Wait, I can make artillery bullshit on the ground, right? Like I can ship the tungsten to my planet and it's not gonna cuck me, right? Okay, because it doesn't see you have to cry. Okay, we should be fine. Okay. Shannon Sharp stepping away from ESPN while fighting the sexual assault claims. Oh no. I don't know anything about this person, but okay. Oh, because of the video? Oh no, the preemptive video he released didn't work? Oof, okay, I might have something to say about this, okay?
Hey guys.
Let me use the restroom real quick and then... Oh no, one sec. Okay. I think it is super important to keep the pressure up on this Trump administration. Okay. I will say, okay, not to sound cringe. All right. And it's not cringe. Okay. Brave men cry. Okay. But I got the slightest bit teary-eyed, okay, thinking about the fact that last night, a lot of our judiciary is pushing back on the Trump admin, like they're supposed to be. There was some worry for a while that the Supreme Court wouldn't, but they have, in a few really big ways. And a lot of our federal courts are doing a really good job at issuing temporary restraining orders, rebuking the administration when they're acting out of line. I think we've seen really good, I don't know if I'd say leadership, but really good action, both in words and rulings, from members of our judiciary. I'm proud of that. I think it's really good. It was their time to step up and do their job, and I think for the most part, it's been quite commendable. So that's good. I appreciate that. Okay. So full court press is good. Recognizing when the Trump admin is fucking up is really good. Being unhinged about it is good, because it is crazy, horrible, atrocious shit. Okay? Now, I'm not just saying this because I saw it on the subreddit, but sometimes I feel like it's a little bit much when I'm seeing every single thing of like the Trump admin just got destroyed by this judge, or Trump admin faces brutal fucking setback. When I see the Brian Tyler Cohen and the like some of these YouTube videos are, the titling is getting a little bit out there. Okay. So like I see this here, the title of this now, I haven't watched this yet. I don't know anything about it. Okay. But somebody said it's about David Pakman. So lawyer warned him, is it safe to travel abroad? Okay. So just with my experience with actually, well, way more travel than most, actually. I've traveled far more than most Americans have. And as having had multiple now international girlfriends and everything, traveling into the U.S. is like always annoyingly difficult. It's just always a clusterfuck, annoyingly difficult thing. Even if you're on the right side of the law and you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing, sometimes you just get the wrong guy at the border. It can be a scary, nerve-wracking process. It's just a lot to deal with sometimes, okay? So if somebody told him, be careful when you're traveling or whatever, or it might be difficult to come back into the country, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are now denying citizens entrance into the United States of America and our whole system is fucked and everything is completely lost. Okay, it could have just been a lawyer just saying like, hey, just, be aware that it might be complicated or there's some dumb shit. Just saying, okay? But maybe that's not what this is about at all, and I'm just, I wasted my whole time doing that addendum real quick, but...
Hey guys, it's Tim Miller from The Bulwark. I am delighted to be here with, I guess we're calling it a fellow YouTuber. I'm still uncomfortable with the title, but maybe you're more comfortable with it. He's the author of The Echo Machine.
There was a shooting in Miami? Where? Link it! I'm ready to go! I'm ready! Wait, where's my detachable sling? My mission-ready sling. Let's go!
Right-wing extremism created a post-truth America. It's David...
Wait! Sorry, one final question real quick. Okay. Because I might go shooting again soon. Can I take a 3.5 scope into an indoor range and send the target 50 yards downrange and shoot to see if the scope works? Or is everybody going to think I'm a fucking retard? I understand it's high magnification for an indoor range. I just want to make sure it's like, it works. Can I do that? Am I allowed to do that? Or will everybody think I'm retarded? I don't want anybody to make fun of me.
Author of The Echo Machine, How Right-Wing Extremism Created a Post-Truth America. It's David Pakman. What's up, man?
Good to be here with you.
I want to get to the book, but first, you had a provocative video, maybe yesterday, titled, I've been warned, do not leave the country. And I want to be upfront. I was like, when I first saw it come across my feed, I was like, okay, let's not scare people unnecessarily. Like, I don't want to overdo it. I do plan to leave the country soon. And so I was like, we could do a funny video. It's like Miller.
Oh, also, real quick, this like lava shit fucking up all the tungsten ore patches is hella cringe. Don't like it.
I do plan to leave the country for vacation. Like, not really, not permanently. But as I watched it, I realized your situation is different from mine in a very meaningful way. And so I wanted to talk it through with you. because I think that this is something that people are really kind of trying to process and do threat assessment on. And so I just figured we'd work it out. So for people who've not seen the video, give a little summary of why your situation might be a little unique.
Well, I was not born in the U.S., so I'm a naturalized U.S. citizen. I've had citizenship 20-something years, but this is a new world in which naturalized citizens have now been stopped and harassed or intimidated at the border, been asked and told to turn over devices. There was a story of a lawyer coming over, I think it was in Vermont, from Canada back to the United States, a crossing I've done 30 times growing up, going to Montreal to visit, and I've family in Canada that I visit. And so the casual warning I got from immigration lawyers who don't know each other, but they all know me, is I might not go outside of the country over the next couple of months. Hopefully things are not going to escalate with these detentions. And I'm using the term detention not as in you're suspected of a crime, but just, at the border, we're investigating, you're not free to go right now.
Yeah. You're brought to a room.
And then if you do go, make sure you know exactly which lawyer you would call if you have a problem. Like, don't make it a sort of, I want a lawyer, because it's a different situation when you're crossing the border. It's know exactly who it is that you would call if that happens. And I think it's a reasonable sort of warning given what's going on right now.
So, okay. So it sounds like he was just given like the super general, like, hey, yeah, it's just kind of weird. Just like be, aware of what's going on. That's okay. Calm down. Okay. Chill out.
I mean, do you feel like, Are you adjusting your plans potentially? I mean, like, do you think that people should? I don't know. I mean, you're getting, not everybody knows multiple immigration lawyers, so like you've had those conversations. After hearing from them, your takeaway is that it's like a pretty legitimate thing to be concerned about for green card holders, naturalized citizens, people.
Yeah, and I would add, because I have such a public presence criticizing the administration, I do think that I'm at more risk than a random naturalized citizen, probably. And part of it is also like, there's not really the capacity to do to every naturalized citizen re-entering the United States what happened to these few people. So I think it's just sort of it's what I would call a low probability but high impact event if something like this were to happen. And so I just want to have a plan. I don't know about adjusting my plans right now, but it's definitely something I'm talking about with my family.
Yeah. You don't think, because again, like I just sort of processing this, like in the shoes of most, well, not, we've got a lot of foreign viewers on YouTube, obviously, but like, for people that are born in America, American citizens, like at this point, they've hassled some American citizens. Like there's an example, there was like a lawyer of a asylee, was hassled. There was the case we were talking about on another video about a kid in Arizona who's coming from New Mexico, but had kind of a learning disability. And there is a he said about what ICE is saying. He said he was from Mexico. Seems preposterous, but so there are a couple of those situations, but like for actual American citizens at this point,
are we being
I guess I think it's important for people who do have the privilege of not having an acute concern right now, that they do not either A, feel like they're imprisoned, or B, more importantly, feel like they shouldn't go and speak out and go to protests and all that. Like, do you have a similar kind of threat assessment to that?
Absolutely. And, this is, if you study 20th century authoritarianism, you start to see similarities, which is one is creating an environment in which people self-censor and say, I'm not going to go to a protest, or I'm not going to put my name to a certain statement publicly. And then the fact that people are doing that can manufacture the idea that there's more consent for those in power than there actually is, which further emboldens them to try and to get away with more. So it's the last thing that I would want to encourage people to do.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's crazy that we're here, though. Isn't it? Even having to have the conversation is kind of insane. I think it's important to have it in and you're a very measured guy in a measured way, because just on Fox the other day, Will Cain was out there going like, these crazy people over at the Bulwark, like they think that Lily from the Upper West Side is the Gestapo is going to bang down her door, and I'm saying like no, like we don't. Like, you don't want to also give them that fig leaf to be able to like paint people as crazy. Like, there's a broad actually consensus in this country, from you to Joe Rogan. It's like they shouldn't do that. They shouldn't be pulling people off the street without due process. They shouldn't be hassling citizens, right, unnecessarily. And the broader we can make that coalition, the better.
I agree. And the other thing that I've also been kind of careful of is I'm very honest with my audience. When there is a slippery slope asserted incorrectly, I think it's really important that we recognize that. So like if we go back 10, 15 years and we think about the folks who were lobbying against gay marriage, who would say, if two men can get married, next thing you know, people will be able to marry horses. And it's like, well, hold on a second. Horses can't sign contracts. That doesn't make any sense. That's not a slippery slope that we need to worry about. That's a terrible argument. Yeah.
There are a couple thruples out there.
Good job. David Pacman gets 12 philosophy points for correctly identifying that not all slippery slopes are fallacious. Congratulations to David Pacman. 12 philosophy points. Somebody keeps score.
There now.
we are seeing here that it was supposedly so-called criminal illegals, and then it was, well, maybe it's anyone who's undocumented, and maybe it's visa holders, maybe it's green card holders, maybe it's naturalized U.S. citizens. So we're seeing a progression here that we didn't see with the marrying horses stuff, right? And so I think it's important to assert that as well.
For sure. Okay, let's get to the book. The Echo Machine. For folks not familiar with it, just give us a little, little Reader's Digest summary, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah, so 3 main points. You don't really need to read the book if you hear the 3 points, right?
Okay, but you should get it anyway.
Point number 1, Trump is really a consequence or an end result. He's like the coal at the end of the rainbow rather than the catalyst for a lot of what's going on. So we trace that story dating back to opposition to the civil rights movement. That's point number 1. Point number 2, the dearth in critical thinking, media literacy, and epistemology is really a plague in the US that has significantly accelerated the ability of misinformation and disinformation to spread. So it's sort of like advocating that we've got to put this stuff back in school curricula. Yeah. Probably when kids are like 8 years old, seems like a reasonable place to me.
Wow. How's your kid? I got a 7-year-old. She's about ready for it, I think.
I agree. And we actually look at, in Finland, it's so depressing, but not only are the 8-year-olds good at critical thinking in Finland, their Spanish as a second language is so good that they can do the critical thinking class in Spanish. It's so
Wait, is he trolling? Wait, in Finland, do they take Spanish as a second language?
The second language is so good that they can do the critical thinking class in Spanish. It's so depressing to see. I mean, it's just, it's night and day what's going on over there. And then number 3, that a lot of the problems that the U.S. is facing, that we are often told we're too big of a country or too diverse of a country to solve these problems, they've actually been solved in a lot of different parts of the world. And so it's sort of like a tour through political successes as well.
Fuck! You know what sucks? You know what's fucking annoying? You know where a lot of these Euro cucks learn how to speak English? They don't even have to go to school for it. They learn it by watching all of our fucking media. I think a lot of people that I've spoken to from, because I think Melina said that, from watching my videos, ironically enough, the grooming. And I heard that from other Swedes as well, that you kind of take Sweden, or you take English in school and you kind of learn it, but it kind of sucks, it's whatever. But by consuming a ton of American media, you learn a ton of English that way. So they all get English for free, is what I'm saying, which is bullshit.
Yeah, that's interesting, because you broaden that out quite a bit beyond, kind of just the right-wing echo chamber part, and describing it like that. And I'm glad you did, because I want to get to the right-wing crazies in a second. But having done the research on this, having looked at other countries, when you're assessing the damage here, obviously some of it, right, is Fox and the right wing echo.
We can do the exact same thing. Why do you keep saying that? You're gonna watch what, Swedish TV? Give me a break.
But some of it is also technology, right? Like some of it is also cultural things that are happening in the country. So how do you, when you're kind of reflecting on it, how much do you point at those guys are bad, and how much is it other bigger issues we need to resolve?
It's a lot of other bigger issues. I mean, there's no doubt that I have a perspective and a political bias that's mine.
Yeah.
But I'm really looking more broadly. I mean, just to give you one example, there's a Pew study I talk about in the book about whether people can distinguish fact and opinion. Because even before we argue as to what the facts are, can we even tell whether we're talking about fact or opinion? And
Yeah.
Pew did this study where it gave people 10 statements like chocolate ice cream is the best, which we would know, of course, is an opinion. Most people agree it's an opinion. And like Democrats are slightly better at figuring out the in this study the opinions versus the facts, but not really by that much. You know, it's like it's clearly a country issue that we have here. So a lot of the
Not for us,
the
though, guys,
policy
right?
ideas I favor are certainly more associated with the political left than the right. But the problem, as I diagnose it, is a much broader than just a right wing problem in this country.
Yeah, the fact versus opinion thing is funny. I was just talking to somebody yesterday who was, there is an increasingly familiar, as a former Republican, comment I hear from folks on the left who are consumers of media. They're like, the mainstream media is terrible. Like, they're out to get us. Like, we gotta, we have to push back on them. And there's areas where I agree with that and areas where I disagree. But like an important part of this is this distinction, actually, the opinion versus fact. I was saying to this person yesterday, I said, the New York Times, I might not love the way they handle Donald Trump, right? I might not love all the opinions in the opinion section, but like their reporting on the health outcomes in Africa is like pretty fucking good, and David Pakman and Tim and whoever, we're not, and Bulwark, and like, that's not in our remit, and so we can't like totally throw the baby out with the bathwater. And I don't know, as somebody who's like kind of in this as like an independent media person, like how do you sort of navigate that kind of question about the critique of the mainstream media versus like the need for fact-based journalism?
Well, it really goes to a side that the best of corporate media is the most underfunded part that we're kind of losing, which is the investigative journalism, because it's much easier to sit in an office rewriting.
Why do we think plain flavor equals vanilla when vanilla is its own flavor? You know the answer to that. Think.
Stuff someone else has done than to actually go out and do the work. So yeah, I think you can kind of do a critique that recognizes the influence of advertisers and the need for revenue, while at the same time recognizing that there is investigative journalism that is difficult to do as an individual with no budget and no resources, and so that some of these legacy media outlets are also better positioned to carry it out, but that at the same time you might not agree with the editorial page. We need to be able to do a more kind of holistic critique of the environment, and then layer on top of it how the salacious stuff is much more likely to be shared and reshared because of algorithmic reasons than a good piece of investigative journalism about something happening in the Congo, for example. So these are multiple layers to it.
Yep.
You also need to be really careful about this, and I agree. I'm getting increasingly nitpicky on this, okay? So I largely agree with what he's saying, but when you say the algorithm is a problem, but the reason why the algorithm is a problem is the algorithm is very good at identifying what humans like to consume in a very short-term sense. So it's not like it's not just the algorithm, it's that we like the algorithm. The algorithm's not doing it to us so much as we're choosing a pathway that's not good for us. Just remember that. So it would require like a will to change the algorithm into something that's not going to be as short-term gratifying. And then, unfortunately, you probably have to bring the government in and with a heavy hand to regulate what that looks like. Because if one company utilizes short-term, pleasurable, hedonistic media algorithms and another company doesn't, the one that's maximizing for it is probably going to be doing a lot better.
What about going back to the solutions on or any of the ones that you go into cover the tech side of it? I mean, obviously there's an education problem, as you mentioned, but to me, like having been in the right wing echo chamber for a while, I kind of was there as the internet and the phones were emerging, right? Like,
would you recommend starting Factorio without Googling blueprints as a beginner? The two blueprints that I Google that I think are fair to Google are splitters, because fuck lane balancer splitters. And I would say like a solar panel thing, because fuck measuring all that. I think those two are fair.
I kind of was there as the internet and the phones were emerging, right? Like I had my first job in politics. It was like basically there's conservative talk radio and Fox was around, but like the consumers of it, they might have watched Fox some. It was kind of before the zombie Fox watchers had really started.
And nuclear. Fuck that.
They might have listened to Rush, but at night they watched Dan Rather, or they watched their local news anchor. And now those same people are fully subsumed by like a right-wing ecosystem in their phone, and it's like they're not getting any regular. And so to me, like the technology really hypercharged this, something that was like maybe a little problem in 1999 or whatever. There's like a big problem now. So anyway, what's your view of that? And are there any kind of technological solutions that have happened to other places that you think are interesting?
I delve into that a little bit. It's actually going to be essentially the total topic for my second book, which I'm starting to work on. So, check with me in a year.
Well, we can work it out live. We can we're sort of drafting it right now.
There's, this is another area where it's very easy for left and right to end up in algorithmic echo chambers. So there's a bipartisan aspect to that.
Yeah.
More pointedly, though, we did see in recent elections that benefited the Republican Party more insofar as narratives that were untrue but beneficial to the Republican candidate did spread more on platforms, including Facebook and others. That recent study in November found that TikTok was the only platform that was politically sort of 50-50. I think in terms of the politics, it was like 54-46 leaning to what are traditionally considered like more left-aligned views.
But I'm willing to bet that it was heavily anti-establishment through and through. It was probably only close to 50-50 because of all the pro-Pally people, but they were solidly Democrat Party haters.
But all the other platforms, like we know Facebook, if we're on it, we've seen what's happened with X, YouTube. In Q1 2025, the left is actually growing more quickly, but that's the first time that that's ever happened. We know that most of these platforms really have been dominated by the right, and the reasons for that, including the funding of it, I talk about extensively in the book.
Yeah. So let's hear a little bit more.
Well, if you go back to when the first the origins of right-wing radio go back to religious groups starting to buy up low-power FM and also AM licenses, which were then consolidated into right-wing radio networks. That, even though it feels very distant from like Turning Point USA and the Daily Wire and PragerU, it's sort of the inkling that first said there's a reason that it's a really good idea to pour money into this stuff. And what we're seeing now is that there's just no equivalent on the political left to what some of these networks have been able to build. And they've done it straight through. Like this is pre-Reagan throughout, Fox launching in 96, and then some of these new on-campus and online groups. They're just more willing to fund it, where for whatever reason, and it's sort of a topic maybe for its own discussion, the left has not been willing to pour money in the same way.
Yeah. So
you all aren't ready for this take, okay? You all aren't ready for this take, okay? But let me give this to you, okay? And then you can mauld about it, okay? I understand you're all gonna mauld, and it's okay to mauld, okay? We can all mauld. It's all good, okay? I'm gonna give you this take, mauld a little bit, and in about maybe 6 to 12 months, okay, you'll be with me, okay? I've been edging you closer to this idea that when we look at money determining elections, well, maybe it's just the more popular person that is raising more money because they're more popular, so more people donate to them, okay? I've been edging you in that direction, okay? Money is, as much as it triggers you, money is a form of speech, and it can be a really important form of speech. If you are working for whatever reason, and you've decided that for the hours of your life you're trading away for a wage, that you want to throw that money towards a particular thing, it says something. If you're willing to donate to a candidate, if you're willing to, spend money on some political fundraiser, if you're willing to donate your time instead of going to work and earning money, like these types of things, they mean something. They show that you're invested in a particular thing, and it is a way to express or profess a belief. When you look at people like the Koch brothers, and you're thinking, God, it's so crazy that they can spend money and get that outcome. That's bullshit, okay? Fuck them. Money shouldn't be here. That's not fair. That's not speech. It is speech. And another thought you could have, you can be upset that because money is a form of speech, arguably, inarguably, some people have more speech powers than others, which is true for a lot of reasons besides just money, okay? But instead of just saying, God, it's bullshit that they have money and they have more speech, whatever, what you should be asking is, why doesn't our side also spend money like that? right? We do have our own billionaires. We do have our own 100 millionaires. We do have a lot of money on our side. Bernie Sanders raised a fuck ton of money. AOC is raising a fuck ton of money right now. Kamala Harris is raising a fuck ton of money. It's not just the fact that they have money. It's where they choose to spend it and the types of projects that they support. This is one of the reasons why I got so upset, and now I'm just indifferent and misanthropic. I don't care anymore. Fuck it. When I look at all the insanely wealthy lefties that don't do anything with their money in terms of organizing, right? Vosh, I guess, is autistic, so maybe that's his excuse. Hassan is just a subhuman fuck, right? I look at people on the right, and my examples were always like Lauren Southern with her documentaries, Nick Fuentes with AFPAC, and maybe Cozy. Charlie Kirk is obviously investing a ton of his time in his little startup org thing. The Daily Wire spun off their whole media empire and made movies and all this shit. These people all seem very keen to start big political projects, gain real political power, exercise said power, and then use all of that to further itself. And I just don't see that same drive on the left sometimes. And it really fucking bothers me. And when I look at this, I'm not seeing like, the billionaires on the right are outspending the billionaires on the left. What I'm seeing is people are using their money to exercise their speech, but people on the left, for whatever reason, that have a lot of money just don't seem to want to exercise it in a politically effective way sometimes. And that really bothers me. It's not good. I think that's very bad, but I think it's apoplectic. Apoplectic is the word of the week, apparently.
When you kind of assess then the problem of what is happening on the right, I mean, we're not going to be able to unwind it, right? And as you're kind of alluding to, the left or the pro-democracy movement, whatever you want to call it, could build their own echo chamber, and there's value in that, though it's not a solution in itself, right? And so, like, is there a puncturing? What do you think about the idea of puncturing their echo chamber? And maybe that is unpleasant, but something that is something that people should do. I mean, I saw Pete Buttigieg was on this Andrew Schultz kind of bro podcaster today, I think it was, or yesterday. And, I already saw, like, while I was, like, sitting in traffic, I already saw on TikTok, like, some lefty TikToker, like, criticizing Pete.
Yeah. Hi, what's up?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, sorry, before I go in, I know you care about audio quality, and I've been coming on for a little while now, so I busted out some of my old audio equipment.
Yeah, you're going to
use it? Make sure I sound... Well, I thought I was, but I guess I'm not. I've got it plugged in now. I don't know, do I sound okay, or...
Tap your microphone.
I don't know how many people off here.
Okay, do you have a webcam connected right now?
I do.
Okay, I think your webcam mic is what's being picked up, because I didn't hear you tap your microphone at all there, so...
Just unplug that guy. Okay. Oh, okay. Switch device. Okay. Can you hear this when I'm tapping?
Maybe tap your mic. No, it's not using the right mic. Yeah.
Can't hear that.
Well, why not just unplug the other one?
I did unplug it. This is the only microphone I have plugged in right now.
Well, how can I not hear you plug or tap your microphone then?
I mean, I went to law school. I didn't.
Well, do you have another secret microphone inside the room that is picking it up? If not the one, are there other microphones connected to the?
I was trying really hard not to tell you about the secret microphone I don't have in the room, but now I guess I do have to tell you about it.
Oh, okay.
No.
Yeah, that's good apparently now. Otherwise, I'm just gonna stop.
It's fine.
It's fine. Your audio quality is fine enough. It's not like fucked in volume or anything. So okay, we just pretend you're on a phone basically. Go for it. Okay, what's up?
Just trying to be considerate.
You're good. Although I will say, you should be careful, because I thought I saw a Business Insider article that said something like people in Zoom meetings that have professional audio and video setups are more likely to be taken seriously in meetings than those with more amateurish setups. And I don't know how many courthouses or litigation firms you're working with right now that are still doing Zoom stuff, but you don't want to lose a case or fuck some shit up because your Zoom setup is not ultra professional. So, just consider that piece of piece of personal advice. So.
Considering I've had people show up to Zoom meetings with their screen names being the Imperial Rizzler, and the court had to ask them to change that name, I think I'm light speed ahead of them, the average person in the law.
Okay.
But I mean, you know, I think people are going to see that I have is it called a pop screen? Is that what this little fucking thing is? People see that and they think I'm some kind of
professional
master recording professional.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, what's
Whatever.
up? What do you got? Wait, well, fuck it. What kind of microphone is it? Just curious, real quick. Tell me.
Sure. Yeah, I knew. I knew you were having a bad day, so that's why I wanted to start it with this. It's an AT2020 Audio Technica.
Okay. That's an XLR mic, right? Does it have a 3-prong cable? Or does it plug in right to the computer with a USB cable?
It does have a 3-prong cable.
Okay.
And it plugs into this little box right here with knobs on it.
Is it a red box? It's called a Focusrite 212i.
It is a black box that says Behringer on it.
Behringer. Okay.
Behringer. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. Okay. Well, just get close to your mic. You're good. It's fine. Your audio's fine. Go for it. What do you got?
Okay.
Okay.
I got a new stand, so now I need to readjust it.
Oh my god.
Okay.
You got everything going on here.
Well, trying to, you know, be a good guest.
Did you ever see the guy going to the Zoom call with his thing set up to buttfucker 3000?
I saw the buttfucker. The cat one is also.
Oh, the cat one is good. Yeah, I'm not a cat. Yeah.
Yeah, and then did you see recently the guy that had an AI assistant appear in court for him and got just reamed by the judge?
No.
It's a fun little video. Yeah, he's like, oh, I can't talk for more than 30 minutes at a time because of I don't know, he had cancer or something.
Oh,
and so
no.
he's
Okay.
like, yeah. Then he put up an AI assistant like on a TV screen. And this judge just like laid into him because he owned the company for the AI assistant. And the judge is like, I've seen you. You've come to the court before and talked to my clerk for more than 30 minutes at a time. You can do this. Stop bullshitting. We're not here to launch your fucking company.
Okay.
Come on.
Sounds like a hater, but okay.
Just protecting lawyers' jobs as judges should be.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna come in here and soy out about an executive order that came out.
The civil rights one or whatever.
No, about the accreditation one. Though I do have notes on the civil rights one. I'm happy to talk about. But I heard you talking about money and speech here right before I came on, so I just wanted to. I want to ask you some questions that kind of maybe fill in some gaps in something you just said. As far as whenever you talk about speech being money, whenever you think about speech being money. Do you
or money can be speech, I guess. Yeah, but go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, money can be speech. That's all it is. Do you ever think about? Do you consider the idea of discretionary versus non-discretionary spending, whenever people are buying, say, food or paying rent, versus
for sure,
buy a car, right? So, do you see it all as speech, or do you say that it's just like varying levels of speech? How do you?
No, not all money is speech. And not all speech is money, but I'm saying the way that you choose to spend your money can definitely be a speech-related thing, depending upon what types of things you want to fund, right? Yeah.
I think the way you just phrase it is because the way you choose to spend your money, right? So like if you're in a position where you're not.
No, I'm not. I don't mean like a vote with your dollar thing. I mean like I spent money fundraising or paying directly for people to go on Canvas, right? That's me very directly using my money as a form of speech, right?
Yeah, but if I choose to go and buy a foreign import car. Right. Am I now making? Do you consider that speech of saying I support?
Probably not in the same way. I don't think I would now. I don't think that's really. Yeah.
Okay, I'll end this line of questioning because I think I have a better picture where you're talking more directly about people intentionally spending money
on like politically related things. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. That's fine. Yeah. So, an executive order came out last night.
A gag order or an executive order?
An executive order came out last night. Let me read the stupid fucking name it has. Reforming accreditation to strengthen their higher education. And reading through it, I couldn't help but feel apoplectic and just so upset about kind of where like the state of things are. So do you understand what accreditation is as far as like for law schools and medical schools? Do you understand what that is?
Well, for medical schools and law schools, I'm sure that accreditation is incredibly important. For medical schools, probably because there's like the board of the AMA people that decide like who actually gets licensed to be a physician and whatnot. And then for law schools, you've got your state bars that decide who's allowed to take the bar, and you have to go to an accredited law school and all that.
Right. Exactly. And so accreditation they're usually accreditor organizations, and there might be regional or ones that have specific jurisdictions or areas, right? So you'll have state medical boards, but they all tend to generally be in the medical and legal field kind of a hierarchy where they're not necessarily taking orders from the ones above, but you have a kind of you have the American Bar Association, then you have state bar associations, and these are all kind of working together to make sure that these schools are legitimately teaching the law in such a way to produce lawyers that are going to follow ethical guidelines. They're going to have the knowledge necessary to represent people, blah, 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 all that stuff.
Yeah.
And while I'm not a medical doctor, I'm sure that it is similar over there, that's how it works. Those were not originally, or at least the way that those are set up is they're not set up to be government agencies. They're not controlled by the government. They are separate entities that receive federal recognition for their accreditation, right? So the government says, we see this accreditor over there, and what they say is accredited, we support that. Just kind of make it general. And that's important, one, because both medicine and especially law both interact with the government a lot, obviously. And so having that government interaction is naturally important, because the government, whether it's spending money in the medical field or whether it's enforcing laws and having attorneys appear before them to represent people, wants to make sure whenever it's spending money and whenever it's doing things that it's not wasting it. It's, all that stuff.
Okay.
Right now, then what happened is Donald Trump has come in and said, wow, the ABA and the medical...
Wait, real quick, just one real quick thing, because chat is spamming. I don't know. Try turning your mic around, like 180 degree rotate it. Somebody said you have it backwards. I don't know if that matters on that mic, but...
So I should be speaking into the wire in the back of it?
Okay, never mind. That guy's retarded then. Forget it. Okay, bring it. Turn it around again. Okay, sorry. Okay, good. The chatter, the reason why I probably sounded good is right now your mic is, my guess is your mic is sitting on your desk or something, and it's like 3 feet from your face, and it should be like 6 inches from your face. That's probably why it sounded good before, because you were... Like, if you bring it up to your, like, hold it or bring it up to your mouth and speak into it, just, like, say, like, hi, what's up? How are you doing today?
Okay. Hi, what's up?
Yes, this is how it's supposed to sound, closer to this.
This is how it's supposed to sound.
Closer, yeah.
Okay. You still can't hear that? Seriously?
I could a little bit now, but it's not, you've probably got, like, a Discord noise suppression, a bunch of shit around. But that doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. Go ahead. We're okay. But go ahead. Keep going. Okay. Accreditation, important. Usually private institutions that the government basically gives the nod to allow them to regulate in this particular way. Yeah. Which is not uncommon. In other ways, this happens as well. For instance, FINRA, I believe, is like a private financial thing. It's not government owned, but like FINRA determines like a lot of the financial regulations and stuff. Yeah. But okay. Yeah.
Sure. So then what happens is now whenever you want to go to medical school or you want to go to law school, you a lot of people obviously need to take out student loans. If you want a federal student loan, a lot of the times those schools have to be accredited. Okay. And so if a school doesn't have accreditation, then you can't a lot of times get a federally backed student loan to go to that school.
Mm-hmm.
So then Donald Trump has now come out and said, oh my God, the ABA and the Committee on Medical Education has been violating the Fair Admissions Inc. versus President and Fellows of Harvard College ruling by the SCOTUS back in 2023 regarding affirmative action admissions because they support DEI programs and they have essentially DEI requirements for schools to gain accreditation, right? This totally ignores the fact that the ABA actually suspended their DEI requirements back in February of this year. I haven't looked into the medical one, so I'm not sure where they're at.
Sure.
But
also, I just want to say also that you're talking about this, okay, and I'm pushing on people a lot of it, is a red herring. It doesn't matter if they follow it or not. If they weren't following it, then I'm sure there is a process that has to be gone through to strip somebody of their accreditation that is more than just Trump filling out an executive order and saying, fuck you. Same thing with the Abrego Garcia dude. Even if that guy was a multi-gang member, like prolific international child rapist, you don't unilaterally deport him from the office of the presidency without due process, right? Yeah. But yeah, go ahead.
you're right that there usually is more of a process. However, the accreditation is basically under something that's under the Department of Education. It's granted by them, and so he can and has directed the Secretary of Education to now, suspend their accreditation so long as they're violating the rule, this arbitrary rule around DEI that he's created.
Sure.
Right. And so that's already stupid and bad. And it's kind of like, it feels obvious because he's put out a bunch of executive orders about DEI already, both within the government and in other ways. Every time he writes one of those stupid executive orders targeting a law firm, he brings up DEI as being an unfair hiring practice. And so then what he does is he goes on and says, okay, here is a list of things that these accreditors need to care about or need to have rules about in order for them to become accredited. Most of they're very vague, but some concerning ones is that they need to increase, they need to have intellectual diversity amongst their faculty. So it's important, because these schools apparently have been discriminating against conservatives and won't hire them. And so if they don't somehow prove that they're not doing that, then they can't be accredited, right? And then on top of that, then they're saying that they're trying to also use this to kind of like say, oh no, we're promoting technology, A1 learning and things like that. And then finally, they're pushing for additional accreditation organizations to exist, right? So like parallel organizations to the American Bar Association who could accredit schools. And so it's kind of there's multiple points to this. Or one, they're attacking the schools indirectly by undermining students' abilities to get loans to go to those schools, right? So Harvard Law School almost definitely
the goal is an ideological enforcement. That's what they're trying to do, right?
Right. Right. They're enforcing an ideology, but they're doing it through multiple ways. One, by saying if they can get the people that already exist to follow the rules, and if they won't, they're saying, well, that's fine. We'll just make our own ADA, but with hookers and blow.
Sure. Well, even on that first one, when you say getting people who are already there to follow the rules, I don't even know if they care so much about that. For instance, on the Columbia shit where they are withholding funding for something, if Columbia didn't get on board with I don't even remember what the requests they made were, but my understanding is Columbia did get on board with those and they still haven't rescinded the withholding of that funding. So it seems like I don't even know.
I believe you're correct about that.
Yeah. So I don't even know if they care if you get on board with shit. They just want to basically go after enemies,
Yeah. Right. And so I think that's a good way to look at it. But then I think a lot of people might look at this and go, he's attacking the elites, or these schools are woke and bad, so this is fine. Or, there might be a bunch of different things. Fuck lawyers, we hate them anyways. But like, this is so horribly bad for America, what he's doing, because it's similar to the foreign students who he's trying to deport, where it's like, these are people who are some of the highest earners, highest taxpayers, things like that. So like right out of the gate, you are suppressing the future tax income of America. You're suppressing the future economic activity of America. There's already a doctor and lawyer shortage in a lot of areas in America. That is only going to be exacerbated, right? And I don't know. It feels like this is a lot of people might view this as a small one, or one that's kind of like we start one of the most clear signs of an authoritarian regime is the suppression of lawyers and access to lawyers.
The intelligentsia,
people, right?
It's the whole academic institutions. Right. It's the people that control all of that type of stuff in society. Yeah.
And there's the other side of it is let's say there's kind of two paths for the accreditation of these industries. One, let's say the ABA and the medical board, they say, you know what, we're going to forge our own path and just not care about federal accreditation, because we can promulgate rules around this that let us do it, right? The federal government doing this, they could just make it where, okay, that just means federal loans aren't accessible for people going into this industry, which is bad, but we'd rather do that than compromise our morals, right? And then let's say the medical and the legal community goes, okay, we're good with that. We'll go with you. And now what's happened is those organizations and those industries are now drifting away from the government. And that means that, and it makes it more difficult for those industries to adapt, to create regulation and things in the future down the line, because now they're more separated. It also makes it where now people might not look to those industries as well as maybe alternatives, like alternative medicine and things, because oh look, these people aren't even, if my doctor's not federally accredited, how is that any different than this person selling me, fucking blue dye to put in my water? That's also not federally accredited, right? Like there's that kind of we're kind of making everything into nothing by doing this. Or there's the other scenario where current accreditors go, okay, well, I guess we're going to play ball, and they do everything they can. And let's say he's not just going after enemies, and it's instead just he's trying to micromanage these things, and it goes the other directions, and these accreditors just become basically subsumed into the government, where every person is like a hand-picked Trump loyal person who's making sure that the way that the law is practiced and taught and things like that is conforming to his views. So it's just a very, very dangerous thing, where, because we have on the one side we have people's health, and on the other side we have people's legal rights and ability to access the courts. And if we lose those, it's just so much harm, and it's scary, because both paths on this lead to a very scary future. So that was just me soying out about something that affects me more personally than most other EOs that have come out.
Sure.
I just wanted to talk about that for a second. But there is also the civil rights one that came out that was pretty disappointing, but not super surprising, because it's similar to something he did in the past. So do you understand what the civil rights executive order, like what it was talking about?
No, I didn't actually read it at all.
Okay, that's fine. It's attacking, it's doing kind of a weirdly it's doing a very classically conservative perspective on this, where how I think conservatives generally try to argue, well, everybody should be equal at the start. It shouldn't matter where they end up, right? Like, we don't want equality of outcome, we want equality of opportunity. It's kind of in that vein, where it's saying you can't sue over like there's no claim if the enforcement of a policy results in
disparate outcomes or whatever. Yeah, right? Sure. Okay.
Yeah. And so he's applying this here generally. He's ending all the lawsuits associated with him, and I'm interested. It's interesting on my side, because some of my work interacts with the Civil Rights Act, and so some people have been talking about how this might be just kind of a testing of the waters, because this is more of a little bit more nuanced area, and an area that's not as like clear cut, right? It's a little gray. So him kind of coming in here and pulling back on this and seeing how the courts react, and seeing how the legal community reacts is going to be interesting, because he might start pushing into other areas. So he also went into the schools and said he had another executive order that said, hey, we're ending disparity impact regulations for school discipline. So under Obama, he introduced a policy where it said, like, hey, if you are disciplining a child, okay, it needs to meet an important educational goal, and you need to show that it doesn't have there's no other disciplinary measure that would have a less burdensome or adverse impact on one group of students. So let's say, like, if you punish kids for coming in late for school, okay, and it turns out that all of the Asian kids live so far away that they have to take public transit, and the first bus that gets to school is going to be late no matter what, okay, we need to find an alternative there, right? So just punishing those kids for that.
Yeah, disparate outcome can be a really important way to measure people that are trying to be sneaky racist as well, right? I think the North Carolina Supreme Court case came down to a lot of that when it came to their voting restrictions, where the legislature had requested like racial breakdown data for a lot of voting related stuff, and then they started closing like early voting and certain polling places depending upon where black people were the most likely to vote. But none of the law itself had like written anything about black people, but it was very clearly targeting them. And I think it was through disparate outcomes that they measured that, yeah.
And also on top of that, whenever you're doing this kind of thing, like they understand the idea of like a pretextual excuse for this stuff and saying, okay, you say it's for this reason, but if that's true, then why didn't you, use this alternative, less burdensome means, right? Or
Yeah.
why
And
why is there this
pretextual
now
is the
evidence
fancy
of-
lawyer way of saying you have like a thing that you want to do that you know is probably wrong, but you're like kind of searching for a bullshit reason to do it. Right.
Yeah, it's like bad faith, right? It's just
Yeah.
like, hey, this is very clearly bad faith. And so a lot of people are really worried about this. One, because he comes in here and again, he's making this argument where he says it in the executive order. It's really stupid, where it's like, I've got it right here. It's, this is about merit, and we're trying to get rid of discriminatory practices, right? And we're not looking at race-oriented outcomes. Whenever this is pretty well understood, like I know I said it was gray earlier, but this is stuff that's been going through the courts. Like we have ways of understanding pretext and understanding these things, and he can't overturn the law, but he can go to the DOJ and say, okay, you can't enforce this anymore. And so under Title VI, that is, as far as I understand, it's all or almost all just the government coming in and enforcing it, right? Title VI has to do with whether a person can receive, like interacting with programs that receive federal funding, right? So it's really easy for Medicare, right? They can't differentiate based off of race because they receive federal funding. So in this way, it would say, okay, hey, well, actually, we're not going to enforce that part. So if it turns out that Medicare, Medicaid, turns out it actually doesn't help Black people as much as white people for whatever reason, well, we're not even going to look at that anymore. We don't care, and that's not our problem, because at the beginning, whenever you sign up for Medicare, Medicaid, it doesn't ask you to sign up for the Black person plan. It says, oh, here's your plan.
Sure.
So those were the two big ones. As far as what you were saying before, when it comes to, you said you glazed the court system a little bit about fighting back, right? And how that was good, and I agree with you on the clickbait bombshell titles. Do you? I kind of struggle with this as an attorney because it feels like I might have the opportunity to, as an attorney, go and start a lawsuit, let's say, and say, hey, my rights personally are violated. I'm going to go and sue the government for it and see what I can do there. But to me, a lot of things in my personal life make it where doing so would put too much at risk for me to do it, and I can't justify doing so. There's some channels that I saw. Legal Eagle has filed some lawsuits against the government. There was another attorney, I believe, that also filed a lawsuit against the government and things like that. As far as like private actors trying to hold the government accountable in those ways, where do you stand on that kind of burden, right? Because I think everybody talks about protesting, they talk about voting and spending their money as speech and things like that. But when it comes to these kind of actions where it's a public record, you're not sure how much danger you're putting yourself in, right?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a huge obligation there. I would say there's an obligation to stand up if they're extorting you. I mean, depending on your capability. Like if you're one of these big law firms and you have like tons of money, I think there's a little bit, like I don't like all the law firms that are buckling under the administration's pressure. But like as an individual, I don't think you have an obligation necessarily to proactively sue the government.
Okay. There's been some discussion in lawyer circles about that, how it's like, well, if we know that the government's doing something wrong and technically we have standing, right? Like, is it even some people have even said it's worth doing just if they were even just essentially vexatious, right? Just to tie up government resources. Like
if there was a lawyer that felt like they had standing because they were a lawyer because the government wronged them, in that point, why not get a bunch of lawyers together to have a conversation, figure out the most effective way to do this, pooling resources like intellectually and time-wise, and then just like file it as a class action? I feel like that would be the strongest way to do that, no?
I mean, class actions are a bit of a meme. I understand what you're saying. Maybe there is something like that, but like class actions aren't as easy as a lot of media might portray them to create. But I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
and you're right.
Well, I mean, my understanding is for a class action, one of the hardest things is to get a suit upgraded to like recognize a class that's harmed. But if you're literally suing the government because you feel like you're harmed, you have standing because you're a lawyer. Well, I feel like that should be relatively easy to upgrade to a class now, like more so than like a injury thing or some other type of tort or whatever. But I could be totally wrong. I don't know. I'm obviously.
So, I mean, I don't even know if I can say you're right or wrong on that. Sorry, it's hard for me to speculate about those things.
Yeah, okay.
Without, depth. I'm just wondering your take on that, because it's like, I would say you would say that there's a point at which, obviously, you protesting, voting, all the way up to violence is some kind of is warranted depending on the political situation, right? And so there have been people talking about this where it's like, sacrificing, and in those cases you're sacrificing time, money, and then all the way up to potentially losing your life. And there's a real hesitation I've seen, at least, I don't guess even in my own life, to step up as lawyers and maybe.
No, I don't think there's an obligation to proactively sue the government right now. I think that's kind of a lot. Defensive lawsuits, I think, would be a bit different, and I wish people would act a little bit more strongly defensively. Although I think a couple law firms are now, right? And Harvard is, at least. So
yeah, There's about four or five law firms that have been pretty successful in doing that kind of thing, in pushing back so far. They've gotten TROs, I believe. One of the preliminary injunctions have been granted, or it's coming up for a hearing soon. But that stuff takes a while. They push the briefing back on that stuff a lot whenever it's complex and things like that. So just kind of trying to get your idea on it, just because one, it's also asking lawyers to kind of have a political answer a political question about their jobs, which a lot of us, whenever they're not on YouTube debating, try not to do. We try very hard to avoid kind of political questions in our jobs. So then now a lot of people are asking questions around kind of like, well, our jobs give us more options to kind of have a political voice in certain ways. How should we do that? So just want to get your perspective as an outsider on that.
Okay.
Well, appreciate it. I'm gonna keep tinkering with my microphone, and hopefully it'll get better. I believe you're traveling. Have safe travels. I hope your plane doesn't crash.
Yeah, in 2 days. But all right. I love you. Be careful. Stay safe.
Well, you too. Bye.
And I already saw, like, while I was sitting in traffic, I already saw on TikTok, like, some lefty TikToker like criticizing Pete for going on that, right? And so maybe that is unpleasant, but something that is something that people should do. I mean, I saw Pete Buttigieg was on this Andrew Schultz kind of bro podcaster today, I think it was, or yesterday, and I already saw, like, while I was sitting in traffic, I already saw on TikTok, like, some lefty TikToker like criticizing Pete for going on that, right? And so there's, I think, a genuine view maybe from some people, like, you shouldn't do that, like that is only helping their echo chamber, it's only validating it. On the other hand, if it's like gonna exist and it's creating all these problems, like, maybe that's the best of the bad solutions. I don't know. What make you of that question?
I tend to lean towards the latter. And I think actually the key is, we kind of have like a pretty low glass ceiling in the overtly political space, because no matter how many of us do the overtly political thing that we're doing, a lot of the country just doesn't consume this type of content. Right. They're not going to consume the overtly political podcasts or watch the overtly political YouTube shows. So actually reaching what I call blue-coded sociocultural spaces is critical. When Trump showed up and did the Nelk Boys for however many hours he did it, he told a lie every 15 seconds, but it did not matter, because it was unstructured and authentic in a way that resonated with people and did much more to help him than the fact that he told 4 lies a minute did to hurt him, because that was sort of like already baked in. And a lot of these spaces have become red coded. If you go on TikTok, if you're looking up how to wholesale houses or how to be a better car salesperson or fitness stuff, 90% of it is red coded, where it might not be overtly part of the subject matter, but it's like, these are kind of right wingers. They're sort of loosely in the MAGA sphere. The left needs that. And I don't know exactly, I'm in an overtly political space, so I don't know exactly who does it, but I think that that's critical.
Could not agree with that more. What do you make of the Gavin strategy? I think slightly different than what I was saying with Pete, because he's hosting people on his own platform.
You know, my reaction after the first episode was, I don't know that I totally understand the play, even if the idea is to set himself up as more moderate for a 2028 presidential run. Like, let's assume that that's what it is, which many of my viewers believe that it is. I don't know if what there is to gain by hosting Charlie Kirk in a sort of pseudo-friendly manner and conceding quite a bit. I don't know if the moderates he will gain will supersede what he stands to lose. Since that first episode, I'm now sort of open to the idea that maybe he does know what he's doing. I just don't know. You know, it's I have to acknowledge
Nobody knows what they're doing is a pretty good baseline.
Maybe no one knows what they're doing. Right. As someone who's in this space, I acknowledge that my view on how the average voter will be affected by this stuff is probably completely warped. So I'm open to the idea that this is potentially a disaster and potentially brilliant.
What do you think is the most pernicious thing in the right-wing echo chamber of the time that you spent analyzing it?
Well, I think it's the speed with which the mis and disinformation spreads completely uncritically and the complete lack of a desire to correct it, where I don't want to pretend that the left goes out of its way to correct everything that it gets wrong. But there is a little bit more of a resistance to continue spreading a knowingly false narrative.
Yeah, there's some shame. There's definitely more shame.
Even when we saw, like, for example, with the Abrego Garcia story, where some of the facts were just wrong, or like they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs, that whole thing. Yeah. They just kept going with it no matter how much the facts pointed in another direction.
No, it starts to become funny, actually. They start to become it's like a knowing joke, wink and nod for the content creators, where they will keep saying the lie, wink, and like the consumers, my assessment is like maybe half of them are in on the joke and like half of them still think it's real, or maybe worse than that, honestly.
That's right. And then they also when we would send correspondents to Trump rallies during the campaign, Luke Beasley was one that would do it. He would ask people, hey, what's your reaction to when Trump said if he decides he should suspend the Constitution that he should be allowed to do it? They go, he never said that. Yeah. And he would be ready. He would pull out the Troth Central post and show it to them. And they would go,
Troth? Was that intentional? Is that like a word like drumpf or?
He would be ready. He would pull out the Troth Central post and show it to them. And they would go, no, that's clearly Photoshop. That's been doctored. You just could not get through. You could not get through. Yeah.
Do you have if you want to know what's happening in the
Trump
echo chamber,
like
do you have a favorite? Do you have a guilty pleasure in the right-wing echo chamber?
You know, I really don't. I
no guilty pleasures.
I don't consider myself a connoisseur.
Yeah, got it. Okay. All right. What,
when Jordan Peterson breaks down sobbing over either a misunderstanding or something completely inconsequential, maybe that would be the guilty pleasure.
It is fun to watch Jordan Peterson cry. All right. I think that's a good place to leave it. David, thanks for popping on. Everybody go check out the book, The Echo Machine. And, check out his YouTube. And, we'll be chatting.
Thank you.
Thank you.